Tonight, our special transmission as U.S. intelligence confirms Iranian hackers targeting Donald Trump's election campaign. Assalamu alaikum and good evening. This is Muslim News Canada on Muslim Network TV. I'm Aisha Ashraf. Today is the 320th day since Israel started targeting Palestinians indiscriminately in response to October 7th attacks. Despite international condemnation and a United Nations Security Council resolution demanding an immediate ceasefire, Israel continues its offensive. Israeli military strikes have intensified today across the Gaza Strip. Reports of deadly attacks in Rafah, Khan Yunis, and Al Bureish camp have emerged. The Palestinian Health Ministry in Gaza confirmed the death of 34 civilians in the past 24 hours. 114 have been injured. A deadly attack on Mustafa Hafiz School in Gaza City has killed 12 Palestinians, including children. The school was providing refuge to hundreds of displaced civilians. One of its buildings collapsed, injuring many of the refugees. Eyewitnesses report chaotic scenes with victims being rushed to Ahli Hospital for treatment. The Israeli military claims to have recovered the bodies of 6 hostages taken by Hamas. The families of Israeli hostages continue to demand for a ceasefire. However, Israeli attacks continue with full force. The death toll from Israel's war is alarming. At the time of writing, Israeli strikes have killed 40,173 Palestinians. 92,857 have been injured. A report in the British medical journal The Lancet estimates the death toll from Israel's war could exceed 186,000. Israel is accused of genocide at the International Court of Justice. The court has ordered Israel to immediately halt its military operations. Despite this, Israel continues destruction and loss of life unabated. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says Israel has tentatively agreed to a proposal aimed at bridging gaps in the ongoing ceasefire talks. The next crucial step involves acceptance of the proposal by Hamas. Once Hamas agrees, the negotiations will then proceed later this week. Blinken says it is very urgent to finalize a ceasefire and prisoner hostage exchange. He describes the moment as decisive. Blinken says there is a need for all parties to avoid actions that could derail progress. Despite Israel's agreement, significant hurdles remain. These include ongoing disputes over the implementation details. As the death toll in Gaza rises, diplomatic efforts intensify amid fears of escalating conflict and potential Iranian involvement. Blinken will continue discussions with officials in Egypt and Qatar to advance the peace process. In Chicago, thousands have gathered at the Democratic National Convention to protest U.S. support for Israel's actions in Gaza. Demonstrators, including Palestinian rights advocates, are calling for an immediate ceasefire and an end to U.S. arms transfers to Israel. Vice President Kamala Harris is preparing to accept the Democratic nomination at the convention. Protesters threaten to withhold their votes unless she supports an arms embargo against Israel. Harris acknowledges Palestinian suffering. However, critics argue her responses lack substantive action. The protests reflect growing frustration over U.S. foreign policy and its impact on Palestinian lives. The U.S. has provided Israel with military support and billions of dollars in aid to back the war on Gaza. Egypt and Israel have agreed on a new arrangement for the Palestine-Egypt border. The border is known as the Philadelphia Corridor. Egyptian sources say the deal permits an Israeli security presence in the buffer zone in return for the reopening of the Rafah crossing under Palestinian management. Israel has proposed 2 options for the border area. It says it can either maintain its current military presence or replace it with an advanced underground barrier and electronic surveillance. Egypt initially opposed the latter option due to sovereignty concerns. However, it is now considering it under significant pressure from both Israel and the U.S. The Rafah crossing is crucial for Gaza's access to aid and goods. It has been closed since May when Israel took control of it. This has caused severe humanitarian impacts and significant losses for Egyptian business interests. Egypt insists that the crossing be operated by Palestinians, though there is contention over who will manage it. U.S. intelligence has confirmed that Iran is behind the recent cyber attack on Donald Trump's presidential campaign. The Federal Bureau of Investigation and other agencies say Iran's interference was intended to stoke discord and undermine confidence in the elections. They allege the campaign aimed to disrupt the democratic process. The Trump campaign initially accused Iran of interference on August 10th. Reports suggest Iranian hackers also targeted Kamala Harris's campaign, though their attempt was unsuccessful. Both campaigns were subjected to spear phishing emails designed to steal sensitive information. The extent of stolen information remains unclear. Concerns have risen over increasing Iranian cyber activity. Microsoft and Google reporting similar attacks on other campaigns. Iranian officials deny any involvement. Israel has rearrested a Palestinian woman previously freed in a prisoner exchange last November. This brings the total number of detainees rearrested to 24. Palestinian Prisoner Society says 18 of them are behind bars, including minors and women. Danya Hanatsha is a student at Birzeit University. She was taken from her home in Al-Bire in the occupied West Bank. Activists condemned the rearrest as part of Israel's ongoing policy against former detainees. The November swap had seen the release of 240 women and children in exchange for Israeli hostages. A high-ranking British Foreign Office official, Mark Smith, has resigned in protest of the UK's arms sales to Israel. Smith was involved in arms export licensing. He alleges the UK government's complicity in war crimes. In his resignation letter, Smith claims he has raised concerns about the UK government's response to the war. He says his warnings have been met with mere acknowledgements. He has shared his resignation letter with numerous colleagues. Smith has highlighted severe breaches of international law by Israel. These include attacks on civilians and destruction of civilian infrastructure. He criticizes the UK's arms sales, arguing that Israel's conduct contradicts international humanitarian standards. Before resigning, Smith urged the Foreign Secretary to review the UK stance on Gaza. The UK has approved £547 million in arms exports to Israel since 2008. The British government describes the recent sales as minor. A rare celestial event dazzled skies on Monday as a super blue moon made its appearance. The blue moon lit up the night as the year's brightest and largest full moon. This cosmic rarity is a blend of a supermoon and a blue moon. It last occurred in August of last year. A supermoon happens when the moon is at its closest to Earth, making it appear larger and brighter. A blue moon refers to the second full month within a single calendar month, though it doesn't actually look blue. Monday's full moon reached its peak in the afternoon Eastern Time. It will remain visible until early Wednesday morning. For the best view, check your local weather. You can consider using a telescope or binoculars to catch finer details on the moon's surface. Thank you for watching. Our news is produced by Muslim Network TV, which is a nonprofit organization. We need your support for donations. Please scan the QR code on our broadcast or visit muslimnetwork.tv to donate now, so we can continue to amplify the voices of Muslims in Canada and abroad.